He lived in a city called Perth in Scotland for 8 years. Little did he know that he would later work in a city with a similar name, that is Perth, in Australia. I'm talking about Collins Angadia Vuchocho, an IT specialist who is now the head of technology here at Fremantle Port. Let us welcome him to Daring Abroad.
Some of the principles, especially for myself in an IT environment, is that I totally accept failure. We encourage people to fail, but we say that we have to fail fast, but fail cheap. So if you're going to try something, we have to try it very quickly. And if you're going to fail, we have to fail very quickly at the cheapest cost.
It is a warm, sunny and busy morning at Fremantle Port in the city of Perth. The port is located to the west of Australia. Here we find a Kenyan delegation led by Cabinet Secretary for Petroleum and Mining, John Munyes. The delegation is here on a benchmarking tour.
Make sure that the trains go in.
You'll be surprised to learn that the tour has been organized by a Kenyan working at the port.
It actually started from this discussion we were having. Fremantle Ports operates as a community port, which means that we are a port that exists within the community. Therefore, they wanted to see what makes Fremantle Ports really efficient and some of the technologies that are there. So the CS was really interested, especially now that Kenya has also become an oil exporting country, in terms of how can we make our ports efficient so that the goods that we produce or the minerals that we produce can actually be exported a lot more efficiently. Some of the things that Kenya can learn from the port is sound leadership, good planning. I'm extremely amazed at how efficient as a port we are. So we always think about multiple ways of doing the same thing. We take a lot of time to make a decision, but it's always the right decision.
Fremantle Port is the largest and busiest general cargo port in West Australia. It is a government trading enterprise which facilitates trade through handling of exports and imports from various countries worldwide, including Kenya.
So we export a lot of wheat to Kenya. That's our highest export from Perth. And from Kenya, we get quite a few things, like we get a little bit of coffee. We got a lot of tea, actually. We get a lot of tea from Kenya. We get some nuts. I noticed that someone was importing some macadamia nuts from Australia as well, which is interesting. I never knew that Kenya grew some macadamia nuts.
Collins has been working at Fremantle Port for the past 8 years. As the head of IT, he has made a great contribution to the port systems to enhance efficiency.
My job entails solving business problems using technology. So implementation of technology, development of software, implementation of hardware, infrastructure, driving business transformation and change. Just solving business problems with IT.
Though Collins has been living here for over 10 years, Australia was not his first stop in his daring abroad journey. Initially, he lived in another city with a similar name, that is Perth City in Scotland, where he attained his bachelor's degree in IT.
Technology was never my first choice. I felt that I wanted to be a doctor and that's what I wanted to do. But I got an opportunity through a lady called Angadia. She runs the Balcrave Foundation and she gave me a scholarship to go to Scotland for 1 year as a student. So when I got to Scotland after 1 year, the scholarship proceeded and we just started living in the UK.
So how did he find himself in Australia?
What made me come here is that I got married. So I was living in the UK in Perth in Scotland and my wife was in Australia, my current wife. And after we started dating, we decided to get married. And we weren't so sure where we were going to live initially, because it was either she moves to Scotland or I move here. And after we had a lot of discussions and we decided, okay, let's try and apply for our visas. And because that time was during the mining boom and because I had the right skills, Australia was able to give me a visa. Actually, it was really quick. I got my visa within a week. And that's why I decided to move to Australia. There's a lifestyle, there's a very good, perfect work-life balance, One of the things about living in Perth as well is that, we are always 10 minutes away from the beach, so the kids really love it here. My wife enjoys it here.
This revelation by Collins ushers in our Miles Away segment, where we learn more about Australia with Michael Zimanji.
Australia is the sixth largest country in the world after Russia, Canada, the USA and Brazil with regards to landmass. It has a population of about 25 million people. The country has 8 major cities which include Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide, Darwin, Hobart and Canberra. Of all these, Sydney is the most populous. It has a population of about 5 million people. Hobart has the least number of people with a population of about 200,000. According to Kenya's High Commissioner to Australia and New Zealand, Isaiah Kabira, there are about 21,000 Kenyans living in Australia, and that's miles away.
Yeah, so this is where the Indian Ocean meets the Swan River. So this is the opening of the harbour.
Before the Miles Away segment, we saw Collins relocate from the UK to Australia, a move that wasn't without some challenges.
Oh, it's never a bed of roses. Number one, you have to really work hard. You have to work hard. And working hard doesn't just mean in terms of the amount of time you spend. It's about thinking about how you solve problems and thinking about your unique situation and what you have to offer. You have to learn how to build networks, both with yourself and also both with other people, and also constantly keeping an eye to the changing environment, because here, the life here is such that things change very quickly and very efficiently. But if you're not geared for that, it becomes a really big problem. So you have to be very aware. So the first thing is that sometimes when you actually go and start working abroad, is that you can actually feel inferior if you're not very confident. You can feel that, you know what, everything else is better than me. So that's the first thing. So your mindset can be really negatively affected. The other thing is that you can fall into a lot of different things, because here people get enticed by a lot of different things. You know, there's drugs, there's alcohol, there's all the other things. Now, at home, the community will look after you, but here it's the state that looks after you when such a thing happens. Therefore, you just get dragged into all the other things, and you cannot be grounded. So being grounded really means a lot. You know, that's why for me, keeping connected to my Kenyan roots means that I stay grounded to where I came from, you know, because the culture in Kenya and the community culture in Kenya means that you look after your brother, and that's really important.
Despite all this, Collins believes life is better here when compared to the UK.
Australia is better because number one, the opportunities, you know, you get a lot more opportunities. Number two, you deal with a lot more variety. The UK for me, I found, was a little bit limiting, you know, in terms of my ability to be able to explore and become creative, because IT people are essentially creative. Plus, we've also got a very good community, you know, both, you know, individual and African community, and also plus a Kenyan community. We've got a really good community where people help each other and we think about different things. So that's what excites me about Australia.
Before landing his current job, Collins worked for an IT company as well as a mining company, all based in Australia. But how easy is it for a migrant to work here?
Australia takes migrants every now and then, so if you're a professional, there's always an opportunity. So they've got a system where you actually apply to be invited to apply. And more or less, if you've been told to apply, it's always a guarantee, because they actually prevent you before you do that. So that's one of the options that you can actually look into. But you can also come as a student, you know, and then study something, then move on to the natural progression as working. But there's always, Australia is really good in terms of the job market, especially for professionals. So I always encourage Kenyans to try and see if there's opportunities for themselves, and yeah, to give it a try.
Since joining Fremantle Port, Collins' hard work has seen him rise through the ranks to the position he holds today. But the old boy of Musingu Boys High School still remembers his homeland.
I think eventually I have to go back to Kenya. You know, one of the things that I always think about is that, you know, east or west, home is best. And I also think that sometimes exposure opens your eyes to a lot of things that you can actually do. So I think personally, you know, I'm getting to the stage where I'm looking back home and see how I can contribute, how I can help other people.
So how does he plan to contribute back to his home country?
One of my biggest passions is solving business problems using technology. So there's a lot of things that you can probably do. And I've always thought about making a difference, giving back and starting an innovation center. This has been one of the dreams that I've got. Being able just to start up something where people can become innovative, where people can come and explore technology, give kids opportunities to be able to do the best and solve business problems and also create something, because that's where it starts.
And finally, on our Diaspora Bite segment, Collins reminds us that all said and done, don't think it's all easy away from home.
You may have professional training and everything like a doctor, architect and everything, but coming here does not guarantee that you get the job that you want. However, you just have to make sure that you do the right understanding, you have the right understanding, you do the homework before that, you make sure that you make the right connections. Nowadays, with social media and things like that, you can actually go into LinkedIn and try and identify the people that you'd like to be able to meet.
Very good insights there from Collins Angadia Vuchocho, and maybe next time we will feature him in a different setting in Kenya, where his dream is to establish an innovation center upon his return. And that's how we end this episode of Daring Abroad.